If there's one emotion that softens even the hardest heart, it's this: gratitude. I've spent decades watching people change, truly change, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, the most fertile ground for transformation is not pain. It's not fear. It's not even clarity. It's gratitude. You see, people grow best not when they're criticized, but when they feel cherished. The best time to influence someone isn't when they're afraid. It's not when they're desperate. It's not when they've failed. It's right after they feel valued. Let me tell you why. Gratitude has this way of opening the heart, of disarming the ego, of quieting the noise inside us long enough for truth to sink in. And once a heart is open, truly open, it can finally receive. That's the key. Influence isn't about planting seeds in hard soil. It's about waiting until the ground is soft. And nothing softens a soul like the feeling of being appreciated. Maybe no one told you this, but you don't need to correct people to influence them. You don't need to point out what's wrong. Sometimes all you need to do is look someone in the eye and say, "You matter. I see the good in you." And right in that moment, when their walls lower, when their breath softens, they become ready to listen, ready to change, ready to rise. I've seen it over and over again. A father too proud to say sorry until his child says, "I'm thankful you tried." A worker hardened by years of stress who suddenly softens when his manager says, "Your effort means the world." A friend who pulls away until one message of genuine appreciation brings them back. We think people need to be pushed to grow, but often what they need is to be seen, not for who they could be, but for who they already are. That moment of recognition, that's the turning point. Because when someone feels valued, they don't have to protect themselves. They don't have to defend their worth. They become willing, not because you persuaded them, but because you honored them. You see, influence that comes from pressure may bring compliance, but influence that flows from gratitude, that brings transformation. And transformation is what we're after. So the next time you want to guide someone, don't begin with advice. Begin with appreciation. It might be the only door their heart still knows how to open. There's something sacred that happens when you pause to thank someone, not out of politeness, but out of presence. When you look at another soul and say, "You matter to me," not because you're perfect, not because you always get it right, but because you showed up, because you tried, because you stayed. That moment becomes holy. You see, gratitude doesn't just lift the person receiving it, it transforms the one offering it too. I've learned that when we choose to express gratitude sincerely, we change the atmosphere. We make space for truth without defense. We create what I call emotional permission, the hidden key to real influence. Because here's the truth most never realize. Before you can pour wisdom into someone's life, you must first repair the cup where it will be held. Gratitude does that. It repairs the cracks of insecurity. It seals the places where shame might have leaked in. It builds trust where suspicion once lived. You want to lead someone? Love them first. You want to correct someone? Thank them first. You want to help someone grow? Notice what's already blooming in them first. And then, only then, will they be open to hearing what's next. I remember once working with a young man who'd grown hard. He was tired of being judged, tired of not measuring up. Every conversation with authority felt like a fight. He came into my class with arms crossed and a wall up. But I didn't start by pointing out his flaws. I didn't tell him what he was doing wrong. I looked him in the eye and said, "You've got strength. I can feel it from across the room, and I'm thankful you're here." That was it. The wall didn't fall immediately, but something shifted. Slowly, he began to lean in, to ask questions, to care. And weeks later, when I finally gave him feedback, real, honest feedback, he didn't fight it. He welcomed it. Why? Because gratitude opened the door. Gratitude whispered, "You're not being judged, you're being invited." And that's the invitation I want you to carry into your own life, to become the kind of person who notices effort, who names goodness, who honors small acts with big gratitude. Because when you do, something miraculous happens. People begin to trust again. And when there is trust, there is influence. There's a quiet revolution that happens when you stop using gratitude as a gesture and start living it as a posture. Because the truth is, most people don't remember your advice, but they will always remember how they felt around you. Did they feel seen or scrutinized? Did they feel lifted or lowered? Gratitude lifts. And when someone feels lifted, they rise. Not because you told them to, but because you made it feel possible again. You see, so many hearts are weary from being constantly told where they fall short. But very few have been reminded of what they already carry inside. And maybe, just maybe, your influence begins not with what you want to say, but with what you choose to celebrate. You might be the first person to look at them and say, "I see your effort, even when no one else does. I admire the strength it took just to show up. I'm grateful for your honesty, even if it's messy." Do you know what happens when you say that? Walls come down, hearts open up, and suddenly what was impossible becomes teachable. Because here's the miracle. Gratitude dissolves fear. And fear is the biggest enemy of influence. People don't resist your ideas because they're bad. They resist because they're scared of failing, of being wrong again. But when you wrap your words in appreciation, you signal something far more important than knowledge. You're safe here. And once safety is felt, growth begins. It's like the parable of the soil. You can scatter the best seeds, truth, wisdom, advice, but if the ground is hard, nothing grows. It's not the seed's fault, it's the soil's condition. Gratitude is the rain that softens that soil. It prepares the heart, and then when you speak, they'll listen, not because you had power, but because you gave peace. And I've learned something else. The same principle works within yourself. If you want to grow, start with gratitude. Not criticism, not shame, not another list of what you haven't done. Look yourself in the mirror and say, "I'm proud of how far you've come. I see your scars, and I still believe in you. I'm thankful for the person you're becoming." That's where your influence begins, with yourself, because no one can pour from an empty cup. So fill yours with grace. Fill it with gentleness. Fill it with gratitude. And then go offer that to others. The world doesn't need more persuaders. It needs more people who reflect back the beauty others have forgotten they possess. It needs more eyes that see the light in someone who's been walking in shadow. More voices that say, "Thank you for being here," and mean it, not for what you produce, but for who you are. That is the purest form of influence. Not power over, but presence with. And if you remember nothing else I've said, remember this. The heart opens widest right after it feels seen. That's your moment. Not to manipulate, not to control, but to bless. To speak words that land softly because they were invited, not forced. To offer a new way gently because trust has made room for it. To share truth respectfully because gratitude has built a bridge strong enough to carry it. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. You don't need to shout. You don't need to impress. You don't need to strategize every sentence. You need to be the kind of person whose presence says, "You're valuable, just as you are." And then, when you feel the moment open, speak the words that carry life. Tell your child the wisdom they're finally ready to hear. Tell your friend the encouragement they stopped believing was possible. Tell your team the vision they never saw for themselves. Not from a place of superiority, but from a place of sacred invitation. This, my friend, is where true influence lives. Not in the volume of your words, but in the timing of your love. Right after gratitude, right in that holy hush when someone's heart says, "Maybe I'm not alone." That is when your words will land. That is when your truth will matter. That is when transformation begins. So let us become people who move slowly enough to notice beauty, who speak thoughtfully enough to protect hope, who lead gently enough to earn trust. Because the power to shape lives doesn't come from being right. It comes from being rooted in kindness, in calm, in gratitude. And when you live that way, your influence will outlast your words. It will echo in the people you've touched. It will ripple through every soul you've honored. And one day, someone will say of you, "They changed me, not by what they said, but by how they saw me." That is enough. That is everything.